Hello everyone and welcome back. It is a pleasure to have you all here and I hope that you are well. Welcome back to Side Cannons! What was that last one? What was that? Hey folks, how do you do? Sander Gems, hello, hello. Everybody, we are coming off of like our hardest week ever. Last week was a tough one. And so, yeah, I think Gems puts it pretty well. A little concerned going into this, the whole predicament that our heroes are in. Yeah, we got in deep last week. We got in deep, but it looks like we do at least have some help. At the very least, we've got a little bit of help on our side here. The question is, how much and how much trouble are we in? Neither of us are back at Castle Vesperale yet. That will have to come later. Hopefully during this session, if we can pull it off. Fingers crossed, right? Shall we talk a bit of review? Do you think we're ready for it? Should we talk about what happened last week? Because, oh boy, it's been a bit. It's been a heck of a couple of episodes. Really exciting times, dramatic times. It's like going into any place in public, but... All right, folks. Let's dive in. Last week on night school at Vesperale Academy, Igor and Illyria are on their mission. Of course, they have been at Castle Vesperale for a little while now, and they've decided they need to complete these tasks that they've been set by the Wild Stallions. Then they can breathe easy. Right? If they can just complete these tasks. Illyria has a box that they are supposed to transport. Igor is supposed to case the town so that when the Wild Stallions come back, they've got these missions completed. They just need to sneak into town one more time. So they do. Off they go. In the town of Dawngrete, the process of getting to the box is very, very easy. All is going well. As a matter of fact, we're ahead of schedule as Igor examines the strange note found on the bridge crossing down near the water wheel. This new Dear Diary scroll. The task goes pretty well. And then they start to try and examine the garrison. Igor, rightfully I think, identifies the garrison as probably one of the prime things that the Wild Stallions will want to know about when they return. And so they decide to do some casing of the joint near the garrison. They want to identify sort of, perhaps how many people are inside, how many, how well defended, what's their response time like. This is the sort of thing that the Wild Stallions will indeed want to know when they come back. But unfortunately, this is the moment at which Illyria's affliction hits in full force. Illyria has since the attack in the woods, has been feeling the effects of lycanthropy. And now, it seems that Illyria's moon is in the right position. The 7 moons over the realms of Residus have aligned just right, or just wrong, because we are just on the outside of the garrison, and that is when Illyria transforms. Igor is able to distract the garrison and the freshly feral Illyria just enough to get a hand on the box that Illyria is supposed to transport and the satchel containing Igor's alchemy tools and ingredients. Carrying these, Igor was just barely able to sort of fight and navigate Illyria away from the garrison slightly. Able to sort of chase Illyria up north, past the Temple of the Broken Throne, around the broken temple ruins, and up into the Expeditioneers' camp. But of course, they're well prepared there, and that is when we were attacked by Luca Brusca hunters. At the very last moment, we are joined by allies. A massive orc woman, a man with a tooth-studded hat, an elf with a long, thin fencing sword, a halfling with throwing knives. They come and engage the Lucabruska hunters as Illyria dies for a moment. Illyria passes on to the gates of death and is now cursed with a task. I need to find the one that I am meant to defend. I don't know what that means yet, and right now I'm not really in a position to think too hard about it. Igor almost died, Illyria did die for a moment, and as Illyria is being rushed away, slung over the shoulder of this orc woman, and Igor has just found a secret passage conjured by an interesting comment and the dice. I marked that one as unlikely as it could possibly be, according to this system, and it still panned out. It still came to pass. The dice just happened to roll in favor of, yeah, there's a secret passageway, and then you were able to find it, you were able to pass on through it, but that is where we find ourselves. Igor, you were able to bring the box and your alchemy supplies just to the sort of these broken temple ruins, wherein in this little alcove behind a statue of a woman on a horse, you were able to find this secret passage. But you weren't able to open the door, you just used your ghostly form to pass into it. So you don't have the box or your satchel in hand right now. As I've mentioned, like, basically you feel pretty confident it'll be there for a day, maybe even 2, but by the time the 3rd day comes around, you're pretty confident somebody will have taken it and probably grabbed it. So, Igor, that's something that you're gonna have to think about. Are you going to stay and try to pick up these supplies? You are currently down underneath the temple ruins in the town of Dawngreet, the ruins of an ancient temple, and you have no idea where these tunnels and catacombs may lead you. Illyria is slung over the shoulder of a strapping orc woman, and that is where we find ourselves. Our quests currently include one that has been crossed off. It is mission accomplished on your first quest. These range from 1 star to 5 stars, 1 star being pretty easy and relatively short, 5 stars being long and arduous. Igor's current quests include a 1 star, Case to Crossroads Town before the Wild Stallions return. Check mark on that one is complete. A 4 star quest, Avenge Your Own Death. A 1 star quest, Make a Good Impression on Pinelli. 3 stars, Pursue Academia, and 2 stars, Study the History of Duskin. Igor, you completed one of your quests, which earned you 1 XP. It cost 2 XP to level up an asset and 3 to buy a new one. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You have earned our first XP of this campaign, 8 episodes in, which means that as of last week, I'm gonna start being a little bit more generous when it comes to awarding progress for certain things, and we'll just see how it goes. I figure 8 episodes in is plenty of time to have a bit more XP than 1 and none, in your case, in my case. So, if you're wondering what things Igor can be thinking about in this episode here, go ahead and consider those quests. You can pull those up at any time, and also you have got a slot open for a new quest. You can make a vow here at any time if you see something important that you'd like to do, and remember, it can be anything as small as making a good impression on someone and anything as big as avenging your own death. It'll just depend on how long it takes to execute that, and then at the end, how much XP you gain for it. A very cool system, Ironsworn, where you set your own quests. I enjoy it quite a bit. Meanwhile, I'll do a quick run through of Illyria's quests here. 5 stars, Return to Brackwater, my hometown, ready to settle down. 2 stars, the Wild Stallions want me to bring something south for them. 4 stars, discover the truth of the underbrush, the strange figure that accompanied me through the wilderness. 1 star, find out about my condition, and 3 stars, pursue expeditioneering. I hope y'all are excited. I am excited. And with that, everyone, with these quests in mind, with Illyria hoisted over the shoulder of an orc rushing through the forest, and Igor passing through the ancient brickwork of an ancient ruined temple in the town of Dawngreet, we find ourselves at the beginning of Chapter 9 of Night School at Vesperale Academy. Once again, we find ourselves on the run. Illyria bumps against the shoulder of this orc woman who, as Illyria sort of comes to suddenly back in the world of the living, Illyria can smell, oh, I know this orc woman. I've heard her called Bella before, and Bella is a friend. This is fortunate as we rush into the woods. However, currently, Illyria is seized by some significant instincts and has not yet had any education on how to control them. Not really. And so we're going to find out, is Illyria able to control them? This is going to be, I think in the future, I'll start to make this like a skill process, but for right now, I think it's just likelihood. And I would say it is unlikely that Illyria is able to control this. So I need to roll 76 or higher, and I've rolled a 33. Illyria can smell a friend somewhere close by, knows the name Bella somewhere in the back of Illyria's mind. They know this name, and yet they're in pain. They're in this form that they don't know how to fully control yet, and so Illyria snaps back and forth, trying to connect with whoever this is, carrying Illyria away. Now, Illyria is going to make a clash roll, I suppose, and with a partial success, Illyria manages to sink their teeth into one of the gauntlets on Bella's arm, and Bella manages to sort of sling Illyria up over both shoulders, and using one arm to hold on to Illyria and the other arm to wrap around Illyria's snout. Illyria is now totally bound up across the shoulders of Bella. Bella, in turn, says, No, I don't think so. I don't think that's gonna work for either of us, is it? Bella has got Illyria across the shoulders and bound up. But unfortunately, as we rush into the forest, we are left alone. The two of us. There are more school hunters, of course. Illyria can smell on the wind the scent of some whose names she knows, some whose names she does not, but she knows at the very least that Zed, the head school hunter, is back in town, and they have engaged the Luca Brusca hunters, one of which very, very nearly killed Illyria dead. And there's more howling in the forest. Illyria now hears this howling differently. Instead of before, when Illyria was simply panicked, they were rushing through the forest with Igor at their side. Now, this howling, Illyria can hear the music in it. They can see the beams of moonlight that seem to spin and collect, almost like Aurora, into the forest, touching down delicately in places around. And as Bella holds Illyria's muzzle, Illyria stops struggling for a moment, just simply staring at the beauty of these and feeling, hearing, smelling the new forces in the air here. And Illyria can hear the song underneath the howling, this chorus of voices howling to the moonlight and seemingly calling to it. Bella rushes forward and stops as the sounds of this howling reach her ears. No, no, no. No, 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 no. Not today. Not today. We're getting you home, Illyria. Bella spins behind a tree and hides as the sounds of this singing at the moon comes closer and closer. Meanwhile, in the catacombs, in this ruined space underneath the ruined temple in the town of Dawngreet, Igor, on one side of this stone, it is quiet and cold. It is the cold of the grave, and yet to you, that is a fairly comfortable place to be. You don't feel the warmth of the moonlight, but although it doesn't feel like home, it doesn't feel terrible either. On the other side of this stonework, you can feel the sort of draft, not of wind, but of spirit, ancient spirit, wafting through this place, carrying currents and leaking out into the outside of the ruins. And you know, just on the other side of this stone wall beside you, there is an alcove holding a statue of a woman on horseback, a knight, or a paladin of some sort. The statue ruined by time, but still barely discernible. And at the foot of this statue, a box that the Wild Stallions ordered Illyria to bring south for them, and a bag containing your most precious belongings, your alchemy tools. Igor looks up and around at the masonry here, trying to understand, is this anything like the masonry up above? Now, Igor, you were already able to identify that, yeah, these archways, some of these pillars, the style of the sort of teardrop shape of the alcoves, yes, there is something familiar about these. They definitely are reminiscent of the castle up on the hill. It's very possible that at some point deep in history, these things were related in some way. Sometime in the ancient history of these ruins. And yet, with a wits roll on a miss, you are not able to glean much else. Indeed, as you look around, the inside of this looks not nearly as familiar. Whereas the outside, with the alcove, the statue, the arches, they looked sensible. There was a pattern to them. There was a style to them. Inside here, although you can see that this area was indeed made by mortal hands, the ambiance is different. The style is chaotic. Rather than being organized into sensible pillars, instead, stacks of roughly hewn stones simply support corners and rooms. They seem to be thrown together. The floors are uneven, much like certain parts of the castle that have fallen into disrepair. This dungeon down here seems to have either experienced some significant seismic shifts where the ground has swelled and swayed beneath it, or it was created in such a fervor that the builders didn't know what they were doing in the first place. As you look forward, you can see in the barest light many tunnels leading off in different directions. Some of them no bigger than crawl spaces, some of them opening into massive and dark caverns. Igor, you press against stones and you find yourself shifting things just barely. You can feel how ancient these are. You have got a much stronger sense for aura now, and these stones certainly have an aura. Something touched these strongly, and you can feel a sense of madness around them. As you touch these stones, you try to shift them, and some of them will shift. You hear grinding of stone against stone. Clearly, there's some sort of array of buttons here that has been pressed, but the door itself does not budge. And as you hear this grinding, as you start to interact with and absorb some of this aura of madness in the stonework, the patterns of the wall begin to shift around you. It's your own mind sort of spinning and reeling with this ancient madness in the walls. Your wounded hand, you know, just your index finger and your thumb of this hand are still sort of organized and opaque, whereas the other half, your other fingers, are all sort of wisping in smoke, barely forming into fingers, and then being blown away by the slightest spiritual provocation, like candle smoke. The door does not budge. And you can feel yourself being affected by the darkness, the madness that built this place. It's hard to tell if the dungeons underneath here were built at some later time than the rest, you know, if they were sort of hollowed into the walls and the foundation of this ruined temple, or if at one point this were the purpose of the temple, to conceal a place such as this. Igor steps silently. Each of your footsteps falls onto these madly arranged cobblestones. You start to lose track a little bit of which way is down. It's a jarring feeling. With a weak hit, you look at the walls. You feel the flow of this place, and you can feel pockets of aura. As you examine this place closely, as you walk into the nooks and crannies, as you see little bits of timber that might once have been doors put up over certain passages, you start to feel a terrible disjointedness. There was at one time a purpose to this place. You can't delve that far back because the madness that overtook it seems to wash over it entirely. As you pass from these different locations, you can feel different pockets of spirit, these ancient emotions that were possessed by whoever lived here, and you sense there was a lot of life here. The feeling that you get is like a nest of rats. You can feel that different groups, little tribes at different points would shut themselves up in these spaces, and in some areas you can see they shut themselves up here for a long time. And indeed, as you pass through these different segments of the dungeons here as you advance further and further, 20 yards, 50 yards away from the door, trying to understand the twists and turns, the purpose of this place. As you see these little pockets, you start to be able to discern the faintest markings. It's hard to discern if you're even seeing them or if you're simply sensing them. Designs painted above doorways, along walls, onto pillars. These designs seem to be marking, territorial markings, it seems, of these different areas of aura. And as you sort of look wild-eyed from one place to the next, the density of the people who must once have lived here is shocking. This was a hive, and you are now seeing the different cells in which these different groups, many of which it seems were in great conflict with one another, lived in these tiny subterranean tribes and came into incredible conflict with one another. But as you look, you can see these symbols painted onto the walls. If you get very, very close in the darkness, you can see in some of the least disturbed portions, you can see just the faintest remnants of ancient paint on these stones, like cave drawings. And at least one of them you recognize. These are the symbols that out at the temple with a thatched roof, the Temple of the Broken Throne, the priest and his acolytes, including Shara, who we saw just last episode, these are the symbols that the Broken Throne Temple tries to reassemble and understand. You see the priest of the Broken Throne constantly trying to recreate these symbols, and now you've found an enormous source of them. Hen says, is there any way we can note down this information? You certainly have, like, I think you've got a reasonable enough memory. I'll just have you sort of make a wits check to see, like, how much of the, like, detail of it you can remember later on. Can you sense these symbols without looking at them? You can sense sort of like a rough collection of them. I would say you are, let's find out. Let's see how well you're able to do this. That's a strong hit. You let some of this wash over you, Igor, and although at some point it might have been just sort of simply a rush, like trying to grab leaves in a storm, you feel these symbols around you, and as you pass by them, you start to be able to understand their organization, if there could be any. You know that what you're seeing is not so much a city planner's mind at work as much as tribes in conflict and the constant wash of power sloshing around in these subterranean caverns. It is terrifying to behold as you are seeing centuries of history marked in paint on these walls. You turn back and forth, and you can feel the spirits as they clash with one another, fights in pitch black with quiet daggers and spears, rocks thudding into bodies, screams of terror. And as it washes over you, you find that you're able to sense this with much more finesse than when you first entered. Sandra's wondering, have we seen any of these symbols at school? And I think you have. You can't necessarily pick out where, but some of this is familiar to you. You know you have seen painted symbols at school. Whether it's the same ones, whether or not they have this same aura, you don't know, but you've definitely seen symbols painted onto stones on over doorways and hallways back at Castle Vesperale. Igor, you close your eyes and let the madness of history wash over you. And you can feel the movement of this place. You feel how its auras wish to overcome anything that enters. You are not safe from it, but you do understand it much better. All right, and I'm going to say, we're going to jump back to Illyria now, but I'm going to say that with this new sort of understanding of like what this place is and a little bit of how it operates, I'm going to say you can try to take another chance at the at the secret door there if you wish, if that is something that y'all would like to do. If not, then of course, yeah, you are more than you are more than capable of heading on out. If you would like to simply depart and you know, try to bug out while you can. That is up to you. Something to discuss in chat while we move back over to Illyria. We keep getting separated, you know? We are in the forest once more. Illyria fights against Bella, and Bella just simply holds on for dear life. Illyria is a sizable person when not in wolf form, and thus has become a sizable wolf. Illyria is going to try and escape. That's certainly going to be an iron roll, and that puts me at a hit with a twist. And in this case, I'm gonna say that my twist is that I'm able to sort of recognize Bella as a bit of a friend here. We could use the help, I think. As Bella tries to hold on to Illyria's muzzle, Illyria bucks and kicks and manages to, with one of their hind feet, catch Bella in her ear. Bella cringes and puts her head down, sort of lets out a grunt between her tusks coming up from her lower jaw, and Illyria is able to wriggle her snout free, but instead of growling, Illyria just whines a little bit, and with one final buck and kick against the tree against which Bella is hiding, Illyria manages to buck free and stands stock still, listening to the howling of wolves nearby. Not terribly near, still in the distance. We could still get a few sprints in, perhaps, before we are in direct conflict with whatever is coming for us. But Illyria has heard these before, and as they lock eyes with Bella, they don't move. They keep their head down. They bare their teeth just slightly and then put them away and lick their chops in a sign of sort of, okay, I'm not precisely sure how you and I are going to interact here, but I'm not trying to fight you right now. And thank the gods, Bella seems to understand immediately. She's still holding on to her ear where she got scratched, but she smiles and she puts out a big, meaty fist on an even meatier forearm and holds it out sort of towards Illyria as a sign of good faith. Illyria gives a little smell and then turns and looks into the woods, whining very, very quietly. Illyria is a bit back in their own mind. We can hear the howling here in the forest. We can see the ways that it is sort of calling the moonlight and twisting it, weaving it. It's strange. Illyria's never seen it before, wonders if this is just sort of like wolf action. But Bella, almost seeming to understand the thoughts that Illyria is having, says, "No, no, no. No, this ain't quite normal. Unless you can do that. I kind of doubt it." She smiles at Illyria, and Illyria just goes and shakes their head. Illyria certainly cannot do anything like this. But then again, Illyria's not totally sure what they could do right now. Bella says, "All right, so we got a bit of a lead on the Lucabruska hunters, but we know there are more of them in the forest here someplace. You and I, we've got some sprinting to do, okay? You gotta stay low and listen to me. Listen up. and she puts her sort of thumbs and scratches behind Illyria's ears, scratches the cheeks of this sizable wolf, gets up really pretty close. Illyria, I know you can hear me in there. You're gonna want to run free here. You're gonna want to run straight toward whatever's coming toward us. You're gonna want to engage. You're gonna want to use those teeth of yours. She like pulls up one of Illyria's cheeks and like gets a good look at Illyria's fangs. And the smile drops just ever so slightly, and she says, "That's gonna be the most dangerous thing you can do. You can't let it control you, all right? All right, follow me." And she goes. Illyria is going to rush after Bella. Bella makes a sprint, shockingly fast for such a large individual. Bella runs up the hill nearby, and we enter a clearing. As there's no discernible direction necessarily for these howling voices singing to the moons. As we enter this clearing, we look around, and Bella slows for a moment. Here we can see there's a collection of corpses. Here in the forest, it looks like a number of woodsmen have been attacked. We see bites into the trunks of trees, bit out by axes that are now laying on the ground. One or two of them have blood on them, but for the most part, the blood all belongs to the people holding the axes, who now lie lifeless on the ground. They are spread around as if they had been caught simply in the middle of their work, and there are indeed some timbers bound up as if ready for some beast of burden to carry them away. Just a simple logging operation. And yet, as we pass through, Bella keeps low, rushes to one of these bodies, and pulls out a crossbow bolt, which, although the runes are faded, they do glow ever so slightly. Runes glowing on a crossbow bolt. We've seen these before, and Bella says, "Luca Brusca. It's not just us." Illyria smells at some of these bodies. This is a new experience for Illyria. Oh boy. Oh boy. I got a twist. It's a hit with a twist or a miss. It's a miss. Dang it. Illyria goes up to one of these other corpses and sniffs. Illyria can smell not person, but bear and wolf and fox. These people aren't just people. They weren't just people. Before they died, they were something different. And Illyria starts to back away. The smell of so many potential enemies nearby sends Illyria into a panic, and Illyria starts to rush off into the forest. From behind, Bella whispers, "No, no!" And Illyria tears away from this scene of a massacre. Luca Brusca. Loggers and woodsmen that seem to have been lycan themselves. What is happening in the forest north of Dawngreet? Illyria rushes toward the only place that they've been able to consider a den for a little while, and this is going to be a wits roll for me. And a miss. Illyria looks wild-eyed. The panic that overcomes Illyria is feral and overwhelming. Trying to understand where in the forest might be safe, which direction might lead back toward this place that Illyria feels in their heart could be called their den for the moment, but unfortunately, Illyria does not have their full faculties right now, and as such, stumbles blindly through the forest. Absolutely lost in the woods to the north of Dawngreet, not knowing which way will take them back to the castle, and as such, heading towards who knows what. Igor. The pitch of the wolves howling outside slowly fades into a humming of ancient battle cries and screams down below this ruined temple. And here inside, your own ghostly eyes go wide, and your one shattered iris, the bright blue of your eye sort of shifts around, not reorganizing, just moving slightly as you are seized by, and at the same time seize the madness of this place. You grapple with it, and you come out, for the moment, victorious. You understand this place a little bit better. Looking up and around at these patterns, you begin to see that there is not so much a pattern or a symbol that was more prevalent than the others. You begin to see it underneath the others. You can see a pattern that existed before walls were torn down, before pillars were removed and cannibalized into new pillars and new functions of these tunnels. You start to see what this place might have been before it was settled by these wild subterranean clans. You see that these symbols are painted over ancient faded etchings, and with a strong hit with a twist, you see the patterns here. You understand this place far more than when you came in, and when you reapproach the door, you can see the etchings on some of these stones. You look very, very closely. They are hard to find. You have to hunt for them thoroughly, but they are there. Your hands skitter across these stones, and whereas you pressed them at random before, now you find the one stone. It doesn't look like one of the buttons that you tried to press before, simply loose stones or dummies or even traps, whatever they were at one point, they are no longer, but you find the one. You find the right one. It's just along the threshold at the base of the door, and it's tough, but you manage to push it. It's a good thing it's got a deep history, otherwise your form would have a hard time interacting with it. And as you do so, stone grinds against stone. The door slides open, and you can hear outside, just very, very faintly, the sounds of the expeditioners' camp outside. It swells for a moment as the sounds of the camp, the sounds of people around campfires, the sounds of garrison guards rushing into the expeditioners' camp and shutting down some of the festivities in favor of finding out what is going on. You can hear the clash of weapons. Ting, 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 ting. You don't know what they are, but you know there is combat happening outside. And I think perhaps you catch a glimpse of a Luka Bruska fighter with a pair of dirks defending themselves against the absolute furious onslaught of a tall, thin elf with a long rapier, with a precise posture, one hand behind his back, advancing slowly in the feet, but furiously fast in the hand, with this sword out in front of them. Ting, 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 ting. Meanwhile, you can see another of these Lukabrusca fighters on the ground, as this halfling is furiously going about with these tiny knives, these little talon knives curved forward, sort of weaving in and out between their legs. You've got the door open. You grab the box, you grab your satchel, and off you go. You hear Captain Vars, the garrison commander, the captain of the town's guard here.
Those two! I want those two arrested now! The glowing runes! We've got questions for you!
And the Lukabrusca fighters do not respond. They simply fight and try to get their backs toward the wilderness so that they can disengage and run away. But you shut the door on this scene. You've got the box in one arm, you've got your bag in the other, and you can feel your connection to these things. You know, your most prized possessions in the world are in this satchel, and as such, this one's relatively easy to hold. And I think based on your connection to Illyria, even the box itself has not provided the same level of challenge interacting with it as some other things. But you've got them in hand, you shut the door behind you, and the sounds from outside are all but cut off. And you head down into the catacombs. The way in front of you is not easy, but you certainly understand it better than you did before. And with a weak hit, you are able to advance at a steady pace. You have a rough sense of the direction of the castle, and now as you walk through these catacombs, you look for signs, anything that might lead you back in that direction. You know, based on your orientation, you need to head roughly to the west, and that is roughly the direction you believe yourself to be going. You don't have a clear way back, but you know you're headed in the right general direction. You simply hope that these tunnels will narrow out at some point and guide you to the right way home. As you go through, you pass ancient lamps unlit. You pass steel grates and walls that seem to cut off, you know, certain passages. Some of them are reminiscent of, you know, dungeon prison cells, and yet, you know, unless this whole thing is a massive and disorganized dungeon, massive disorganized prison, it doesn't seem particularly sensible. So perhaps they were simply set in here as defenses in that clan era that existed underneath in these ruins. Marinver says, can we look for anything we might be able to use? Sandra says, Sam, do ghosts breathe? Like, can they suffocate? It is not something that you feel like you are in danger of right now. As much as this place is sort of like dark and closed off, you get the sense that like there is air passing through here. But Miranver says, can we look for anything else we might be able to use? That is an interesting idea. Let's take a look. Why don't you go ahead and you're going to try and resupply, because you're going to do some sort of foraging down here. Indeed, as you pass through, you can definitely, you identify like there are bits of armor down here. Much of it seems rough hewn. You see old rotten leather. You see occasional bits of maybe iron. Even beyond that, you see something older. It looks like old tabards, you know, basically like robes that have had tiny flat stones stitched into them, like stitched onto them as armor. It's old, rough stuff, and to resupply, you're going to go ahead and roll a weak hit. You lose momentum here in these catacombs underneath what now must be the forest, and up above you, you hear nothing. You are surrounded by no sound. It is dead silent in here. Very literally so. You pass from room to room, and you start to find what you understand are camps. Ancient camps. You see stones blackened with ancient fires, untouched since those days, and here in the catacombs, in these camps, you find little furs on the floor, absolutely rotten with time. You find tiny satchels, many of them filled with broken pottery, the occasional sort of stone knife or spearhead or arrowhead. This place is ancient, but you find artifacts in it. The occasional thing wrapped up in oiled cloth or leather that managed to barely escape the touch of time. It's not a lot, but you find a bit. And as you pass from campsite to campsite, once again, you're impressed by how many people must once have been settled down here. You don't know precisely what their history would have been, and yet you get the sense that lots of people lived down here, and perhaps concurrently, and their clashes and battles were epic. They would have been dark and claustrophobic battles, but they clashed down here. Igor, you've got these supplies. Is there anything you wanted to do with these supplies, or were you simply sort of trying to collect stuff in the hopes that at some point you might be able to use them sort of later on? Jem says, make a healing tea. And yeah, Igor, you put together a little tea. It is bitter. It is astringent. It is a... it's gross, frankly, because you're using some of the most ancient stuff here. But you have got a tea here that, frankly, it feels very, very weird. It's not great. You don't like it. You take little sips, and you can feel your health returning to you. You see that as you hold up your hand and hold it in front of you while you take your little sips here. It's strange, but the feeling of this familiar brew, as gross as it is, it feels healing to you, and you can watch as your hand, where you were bit by Illyria, this half of your hand that fades and can't seem to collect itself, like smoke in the wind, it starts to reform, and you can at least see the shape that you are supposed to be once again. Igor, you pack up your things, you put out the fire once again. The last time a fire was put out here may have been 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, and you turn and head back. You head back out of this cavern and continue on your way toward Castle Vesperale. Around you, you can see almost like tents, pieces of fur that have been sort of laid over sticks that are simply stuck into the masonry in the wall or leaned against the wall. These things that sort of like function a bit as tents, a tiny bit of privacy in this dungeon room here, where this camp must have been made. And it's not just a temporary camp either. This seems to have been the home of a clan of one of these peoples who would have painted the walls around you. You see a symbol painted onto the walls over and over again. And in addition, you can see some signs of permanence. You see kind of a rack on the wall that holds, I mean, we're talking like the jerky of jerky. It looks like a little place where food would have been dried, but whatever is hanging from it has dried up to the point where it might as well be rope. Like old tar-covered rope, it almost looks like. It's certainly not edible any longer. You see a tablet in one corner. It appears to be just a chunk that had been knocked off of some of the wall masonry, but it lays in the corner here, and on its surface you can see etched in a language you don't understand, just the barest traces of these ancient etchings that seem to have had dark ash sort of ground and rubbed into them to sort of bring out the text a little bit better. And you see these, you don't recognize the language, but you see that you know, someone has left sort of a record here of something. Yeah, you get the sense that you're sitting not just in like a quick temporary camp, but in something that served as a home at one point, and you are reviving this fire after how many centuries? What's your next move? Are you gonna head back toward the castle? Continue on your way? It is absolutely dead silent in here now, and the light, there is virtually none of it. You find yourself having to feel along the walls as you move from cavern to cavern, past these rough hewn, some of them seem to be constructed pillars that hold up the roofs and the tunnels. Some of them seem to simply be carved rock, that sort of the naturally existing rock carved away until they became pillars. With a weak hit, once again, you don't find your way to a place where you are certain that you're headed towards school, but when it comes to the next few junctures, you take the way that seems to be leading you uphill. You know that's where you have to go, you know that's where you have to be eventually, and so you just use your rough heading to try and take you in that direction. I think you are starting to get a little tired, though. Whereas you could travel this in a fairly straight line if you were sort of on foot. Unfortunately, you are you are not able to travel in a straight line. There is no as the crow flies when you're down in these catacombs, and indeed, you find yourself having to do a lot of doubling back and reassessing which direction is even west, to the point where you start to get fairly concerned you may not be going in the right direction. You're going to lose momentum here, but you feel fairly certain that the overall trend is uphill, so at least that is a good sign. All right. And as you progress, we're gonna see what happens to Illyria, because Illyria is also probably somewhere up above you. Let's find out. Illyria, rushing through the forest, away from where Bella's voice is calling to them. The orc woman's voice fades into the distance as Illyria simply rushes away. Not toward the castle, not toward Dawngreet, just away. And out here, well, there's not a great way to tell which way is home. Illyria quickly loses the scent of anything familiar and finds themselves rushing just into darkness. There is a purple tinge to the sky, and Illyria doesn't know whether it's from these wolves singing to the moonlight or whether it is the first cringes of dawn, but this is bad news. And as Illyria rushes forward, they see another skirmish happening, a battle here in the forest. The school hunters are rushing through, and they are trying to sort of make their way back to the castle, but what Illyria sees here is these two vampires, ones that they have spotted before. These were the two that arrived into town. One bears a striking resemblance to Headmistress Francesca, covered in white tattoos, and she is with her companion, a human man, clearly a vampire as well, also with these tattoos. Both of them have dark bronze skin, and they are in a mighty clash, rushing in some direction. It would be easier for us to know if we knew what direction we were even moving right now, but they are rushing through the forest, and they clash with Luca Brusca fighters waiting to ambush in the forest. As these two fight, the woman brings out a curved sword, sort of a bit reminiscent of a katana, but with some some variation in the broadness of the blade. The man is using this staff, which he tried to pass off as a staff, but is clearly an enormous war club, and the two of them go into battle fiercely. The woman moves lithely and manages to sort of defend herself well, but the man is an absolute maniac with this war club, and it spins and crashes into weapons, just knocking them aside. We're gonna see who is able to come out on top here. I'm gonna say it's a 50-50 chance. Anything 51 or greater, and Luca Brusca is going to be sort of coming out ahead here. No. Luca Brusca quickly falls back, and we hear shouts in the forest as additional people come rushing in. It is the school hunters. There is Zed, the head of the school hunters, with his tooth-studded hat and his censer on the chain, this big sort of flail mace-looking thing. He is followed by a halfling woman and an elf man with the rapier, and they all rush forward and catch Luca Brusca on the other side. They are limping. The elf has a crossbow bolt in the shoulder. The elf man has numerous cuts along the arms and one across his forehead, and as they run forward, they catch the Luca Brusca hunters from behind. This ambush was clearly waiting for them, and was surprised as this this envoy, we're gonna call them the envoy, this envoy consisting of these two vampires with the white tattoos, this envoy sort of caught them from behind and surprised them, and between the school hunters and the envoy, the Luca Brusca hunters are scattered into the forest. Meanwhile, as Illyria tries to understand what to do here, let's see, as per usual, is Illyria able to sort out what to do? I'm gonna say it is unlikely, so we need a 76 or greater, a 36. Illyria is still seized by this vicious. Illyria is going to enter the fray. Illyria is once again seized by these vicious instincts to clash, and growls at this Luca Brusca hunter. First, let's see if this Luca Brusca hunter sticks around to try and do some damage here. I'm gonna call this unlikely, so 76 or greater. 58. So the Luca Brusca hunter is simply going to flee. But that doesn't mean that Illyria is not going to try and strike. I roll a strong hit. +2 momentum, and I've got initiative. I rush forward at this Luca Brusca hunter, and this hunter seems to be wounded already. It seems to be a sort of kind of a pudgy man with a thin red beard and a cut along his neck. He's wearing the small hood underneath the sort of characteristic tricorn hat. This three-pointed hat that might be reminiscent of like a pirate hat, I guess, but it's the sort of like neater, classier one. And wearing this long coat. There seems to be a bit of a uniform for these Luca Brusca hunters, and he holds a sort of a cat o' nine tails style flail with runes etched into each one of the iron weights at the end of each of these chains. Oh boy. Okay, uh-oh, this is a twist. I'm gonna strike. Illyria lunges forward from behind this tree where they waited for this Luca Brusca hunter to run past. The hunter has his flail in hand and takes a wild swing at Illyria, manages to knock them away as Illyria tries to strike. This is simply a glancing blow, and as this was almost an ambush on Illyria's part, Illyria is going to take -1 momentum, and the foe has initiative, and this foe is going to try and flee. I think, I mean, I'll roll with my edge to see if I can keep up with them. I almost want this answer to be no. Okay, I've got a weak hit, but the foe flees into the forest, and Illyria barks after them. This howling continues to swell in the forest, and once again, these trees nearby begin to vibrate with the force of the singing in the forest. And I think Illyria looks up and around and, frightened, realizes, okay, my instincts say to go toward this Lucabrusca hunter, but away from these thrumming trees, because I know what happens here, and Illyria flees into the forest once more. There are more people here, though, and as the school hunters clash with the Lucabrusca hunters, the last of the Lucabrusca hunters flee into the forest, as the tree trunks start to thrum and start to drop loose branches into the snow. The school hunters have a tiny moment where Zed keeps his chains swinging here, standing in front of the envoy, this elf woman who bears a striking resemblance to the headmistress, and her companion, this man with the war club. They stand off for a moment before the woman of the envoy, with her white tattoos, this vampire, says, "Are you coming back to the castle or not?" And Zed lets the sensor swing loose and says,
"Yeah, of course we are. All right, Bella, Luan, time to go. Hey, Rookie, can you stand?"
The halfling steps forward and with this crossbow bolt just catching her in the shoulder, she says, "I think I'm all right. I think I'm all right. I'm gonna be fine. Just can't throw with one hand. I can run fine though."
"All right, and it's time for us to go back."
The woman at the head of the envoy says,
"We got ourselves a bit turned around coming to find you. Which way back to the castle?"
Zed responds,
"This way."
And the party runs up this hill. As they go, we hear Zed exclaim,
"Where in the name of all the gods is Bella? Bella! Bella, where are you?"
We hear a shout from the forest as Bella comes charging through. She is holding a flail marked with runes. Its owner is nowhere to be seen, but she has managed to get that weapon. She is coming from the direction where Illyria just chased off that other one. As the trees start to thrum around us, the party runs up this hill, and Illyria follows. It's the only interesting thing going on right now. Bella chucks this flail aside, but Zed says,
No, bring it with you. I've got to take a good look at that. We all do.
I think, let's see if Illyria can grab it first. There's a bit of a fetch element going on here after all. Illyria manages to get it at the same time as Bella, and I think Bella, knowing that, so Illyria's already angry at this thing, would love for this to not be sort of in the world anymore, and so viciously attacks this this old weapon like a chew toy, and Bella manages to catch onto it at the same time. Bella's eyes light up, recognizing Illyria, and says,
"That's a good girl. Okay, come on."
Bella, just enormously strong, rips this thing out of Illyria's mouth and chucks it with a massive toss, like a hammer throw. She does 3 full spins and then hucks it into the forest, way past Zed and the rest of the crew running toward the castle, and is able to get Illyria running off in the right direction. Inside Illyria's mind, they are once more possessed by this furious kind of animal righteous indignation at this weapon that hit her before, that bashed her to the side. She doesn't know where the owner is at. She can still smell his sweat on the thing, and as Bella chucks it into the forest, Illyria is seized by no interest greater than following that dumb thing and ripping it to shreds. And so she runs off toward it, tearing through the snow past Zed and the rest of the hunters and the envoy that is accompanying them up toward the castle. And when Illyria finally skids to a stop in the snow, grabbing hold of it with their teeth, shaking it back and forth, when the handle is chewed to splinters and only the metal remains, Illyria looks up and they recognize they are at the foot of the hill which leads up to the castle. A tiny path here, just a skip across the stones, but this is where Illyria met with that individual. Someone who first told them that there was something coming for them, that after that bite in the forest, that they were going to change. Their life was going to change here. Someone by the name of Old Viomir, someone that Old Viomir knew. And I think, remembering this, but also being a wolf, Illyria manages to retain just enough wit to try and check out this scene. It wasn't that long ago, and so Illyria's going to take a look around to try and find out more about this, remembering not only that individual who transformed into a white tiger, but also the underbrush was here. The underbrush was here at some point. Now against an 8 and a 10, I've rolled a 2, which is not going to do it. I mean, even if I give myself a +1 to my wits, because I'm doing wolf stuff, it's not going to cut it. So, unfortunately, Illyria snuffles through the underbrush. I can smell something. It's a tangle of scents, and it has had time to be tamped down by the weight of cold winter, as winter always has sort of a dampening effect on smell. And snuffling through the snow, Illyria can really only pick up the scent of their own blood. It's dried onto the stones here, still rusty red patches of it in the snow. Above, Illyria can finally smell the scent of home. Up that hill is the castle, and so Illyria, even driven by these instincts, has a strong sense of the direction of home, and so is going to be able to head home without much difficulty, without being too distracted. After all, they're hurt. They're not feeling great about where they're at right here. And so they begin to head up the hill, whining and letting out a little mournful howl in disappointment. They smell little wisps of something that maybe it's the underbrush. Maybe it's the mysterious figure of the white tiger, but it could simply be the rabbits and foxes, and now we know the many lycan that have strayed down south into the edge of the woods near Dawngreet. Illyria pads through the snow up toward the top of this hill here. It is an almost cliff-like trail that zigzags up and across, and this is when Illyria comes upon this old route that they took before, even if they don't remember it too well, because they were pretty well wounded at the time. Now, Illyria gets a good look at this little cabin here, and snuffling around, Illyria picks up some specific scents very, very powerfully. Illyria knows that these scents are behind her in the woods. Bella and Zed and Luan and the other hunters that are coming up from the forest right now with the envoy. Knowing that they don't have too much time, Illyria is sort of dodging a little bit back and forth, snuffling the ground in a zigzag pattern, and arrives at the cabin itself and snuffles around the sort of base of the cabin. And upon arriving here, well, let me take a roll here. This is going to be edge or wits. maybe... I mean, probably wits, I guess. With a weak hit. Illyria smells around at the foundations of this place. Smells all the scents of Zed and Bella and all of these people who live here in this cabin, just a little ways away, across the athletic fields from the castle itself, across the small arena. And a darker scent reaches their nose. It isn't just people. There's blood here too. Blood that's been scrubbed away and cleaned, but with their wolf's nose, the scent of blood, of even of aura like the aura of Igor. Dark violence has been perpetrated around here. And probably by these people. Illyria whines and backs away as this scent starts to overcome them. Sense of terrified animals and the blood of those animals. Sense of ghosts being dashed apart. This cabin is not a bright, happy place. Not underneath. And Illyria whines and backs away into the woods toward the castle as the voices of the hunter crest the hill behind them. You know you must be getting close, Igor. You have traveled significantly uphill, and you know that that is the direction you must head. As you pass through these different places, you see there is a bit of a downturn in the number of what look like semi-permanent settlements in the catacombs here. All these little clan encampments, they seem to diminish. These ancient settlements. Fewer markings on the walls painted above doorways. Fewer signs of campfires and such as you climb this hill that you know is leading you roughly toward the location of the castle. Now, with a weak hit, you find yourself passing underneath, instead of stones and rubble, occasionally now there are timbers, and you know this to mean that you are headed in the right direction. You are now underneath at least some part of Castle Vesperale. You begin to get a little closer to those timbers as you pass from different rooms into other rooms. You pass down long dungeon corridors here, and you start to reach the walls of Castle Vesperale. Unfortunately, you are currently in a position where there's no clear way to get out that would be secret. And so you are left with simply this. You're going to have to just leave the wall at some point. You're looking around for secret entrances into quiet rooms, and it seems that whatever direction you've approached here, it seems to all sort of come out, at least as far as you can tell, along a pretty flat wall. Which means that you're going to have a hard time getting back into the castle without somebody noticing you. It just depends on who they might be. And for that, we are going to let the dice decide. I'm going to say really high numbers mean it's going to be a friendly person, and really low numbers mean it's going to be somebody pretty unfriendly. Unfortunately, you are not in a position right now where you have got any favor to spare, so that's bad news. What would you like to do, Igor? Headmistress, says Deathrave. Yeah, it is. It's a tough call, but right now you're just gonna have to sort of hope for the best. Either that, or sort of like wait here and hope for something else to happen. You don't have a ton of options right now. You have arrived at the castle here, and the wall in front of you. You hear voices on the other side. It seems like it's a pretty active hallway. You don't know where exactly it spits you out, but you know it's not going to be some private little alcove like it was before. Igor's getting used to these dungeons. It sort of seems that way, yeah. Igor's done a lot of exploring down here. Okay. So first of all, I'm gonna see who's on the other side of this wall, and then you are gonna have a chance to like try and sneak away from them, right? You've got your shadow here. You're gonna have a chance to try and sneak, but it's not like you're just coming out into a clean hallway. Igor, there is the additional issue of the box and your supplies. You're confronted by a blank wall right now, which means that you are close. And you are very confident that nobody's going to find it anytime soon, but you also can't get the box or your alchemy supplies through this wall here. So, I mean, I'm going to say it's no big deal to like pass back and forth through, so don't worry about that too much, but like it will be interesting to see how you have to react to that. Just know that you are probably going to be leaving these behind for right now. With a strong hit, Igor, you let the box and your alchemy supplies thunk down to the ground. Happy to be back in the castle where there is some semblance of safety. You know you're not going to be attacked by something or confronted by whatever strange presence seems to lurk in the dungeons. With a strong hit, you go ahead and enter the hallway. You pass right in between, going in opposite directions. You pass right behind the back of Orif Barcerand, Professor Barcerand, who is sort of walking his Babadook, very like gangly walk down the hallway, tipping his hat to students as he goes. The tiny bones stitched into his coat and tails and top hat, all jangling around with a sort of a rough dice sort of sound. And then on the other way, heading the other direction, you pass behind another student. You see that this student is an elf in a wheelchair. You've seen them before. They are he is an avid reader, someone that you see a lot in your bunk room. And this is another student who's going off in the other direction. You managed to pass behind both of them, and you are now just here in the hallway with your stuff on the other side of this wall, but safe. You are back in the castle pretty well undetected, managing to pass right in between two people who, you know, might have things to say to you if they had caught you, but they didn't. Hey, congrats! Congrats, Igor! And well done to you. Igor is officially back in the castle without too much trouble, in fact. Currently looking at a map of Castle Vesperale. If we are to call the, you know, let's call the whole castle kind of a clock here. If we are to call this a clock, then the very center of the castle is, I guess you would call it the west wing of the castle itself. Beyond that, there is sort of at 9 o'clock, there is Bailey's Tower. Even further out than that, there's Scullaport Tower. At about 11 o'clock, we've got the Advanced Studies Wing. Up straight to the north at about 12 o'clock, we've got the Postern. And then, remember, this is all revolving around the west wing of the castle. At 3 o'clock is the East Wing, and down at like about 4 and 5 o'clock is the Keep, wherein the Belfry lies. But you have approached from the East Wing of the castle, which is pretty near to the dorms. So I think, yeah, you would have to sort of, if you wanted to go entirely undetected from your dorms from the bunk room to where your stuff is currently hidden, you would have to make a stealth check, but it's not very far. You're close by. Igor ponders for a moment whether to stay back and heal his wounds, try and rest up for a bit, but then changes his mind and rushes off to try and find the headmistress. On a weak hit, your advantage is short-lived. You're gonna get +1 momentum, so that puts you at 0 momentum because you were at -1. You head toward the only place that you can think of to find the headmistress immediately. You head toward the Belfry. Through the winding corridors of the castle, you've just spent your time in pitch blackness for more than 2 or 3 hours. You have been wandering your way back toward the castle through these catacombs. Illyria may already be here. You don't know yet, but Igor is intent on getting back and finding the headmistress to try and explain what was happening, why Illyria went down to Dawngreet at all. Igor rushes up and arrives at the belfry. You reach a door, Igor. A door where it's the closest that you can imagine to the place where you know the belfry to be in the castle. But you look around this hallway, and on the far end, you can see there is quite the ornate door down at one end with that same door hanging off of its hinges. And then at the other, kind of a grand archway. It must once have been grand, but now it's missing some of its stones. But here, just in the center, a simple, nondescript, rounded door. It's unmarked. You grab the ring, and it's unlocked, and you enter a staircase. It spirals up, and you can see that with this steep spiral, you can see quite a ways up the staircase, and it's just this big, empty, blank space with moonlight pouring in from the 7 moons above, and you climb the staircase. When you reach the top, you find a small corridor and then an open door into a strange room. A very strange room. This room, it looks almost like a flea market, or it's more organized than the room of a hoarder, but down below, a room probably about 30 feet by 30 feet, with a little balcony up above, a bit of a loft, and the whole place is absolutely chock full, packed, almost a room of requirement sort of vibe here. It looks like if you've ever been to an old bookstore or an old antique shop, it's got that sort of look to it. Just things piled high. You can see that various bits of furniture here, none of it matching each other. A real magpie's nest of a room. It is lit by moonlight shining in through the many high windows up above, and it illuminates this empty, quiet room. Well, not empty. A shape moves across the darkness through a pillar of moonlight at the end of one of these rows of stuff. It sweeps past a beaded lamp, standing lamp that has these little tassels hanging from it, and they shake as this shape moves past. And Igor, as you poke your head in, you hear the voice of Headmistress Francesca.
Igor, very interesting to see you again so soon. How can I help you?
The shape moves again and ruffles the pages of a massive open book. The pages flip over.
Headmistress, I wanted to talk. Of course, Igor. Please, talk. You do not seem well, Igor. Are you injured? What has happened to you, my young friend? Certainly since our last meeting, you... Well, you've learned something, haven't you? Sometimes hard to tell what, but you have learned something nonetheless.
You turn your head, Igor, and for just a moment you catch the white tattoos on a dark tanned hand tapping on, just the fingers tapping on what seems to be sort of a cracked crystal ball. Just tap, 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 tapping before gently retracting back behind one of these shelves here.
Yes, but that is not why I'm here. No? Not here for your own injuries? Interesting.
The next shape you see move seems to be the billowing of a cloak up a very narrow set of stairs. You just see the tail end of the cloak as you wander into the belfry here. Up above, you can see sort of a hole in the ceiling above the loft. This loft up above seems to be the place from which the bells can be, or at least could have been, rung at some time. You don't know where the ropes are quite. It's tough to tell because this place is hung with sort of haphazard chandeliers and everything. Even the ceiling is not safe from these aisles and labyrinthian constructions of what look like antiques. Some of them very well may be magical. You're picking up strange auras all around, but many of them are too subtle to understand. You wander through these aisles vaguely toward the loft up above, where you think the headmistress has just climbed the stairs as that cloak slithers out of view.
Headmistress, we were in a bit of trouble. Not just me, but my friend Illyria as well. Illyria, I'm sure you know, is a werewolf. But the main trouble is that, well, it started before we came to the castle. Igor, there is always some trouble that is going to be following you. Everyone comes here with troubles from before. What sort of troubles were yours? Well, there is a frontier gang. They're called the Wild Stallions, and they expected some things from us. They were the ones who brought Illyria south from the Oxpens. They brought me from my little town at the edge of the towers. I'm from Vystreta. I know, Igor. What sort of trouble were you in with the Wild Stallions? They wanted Illyria and me. They wanted us to do some things. I was supposed to get a good sense of the layout of Dawngreet, and Illyria was supposed to bring a box south. A box? And what was in the box? We don't know, not yet. But things have been complicated. We were living underneath wagons, and we were doing well. When they were going to come back for us, we were going to have what they needed. We didn't know when they were coming, but they said that they would, and we almost had it, but then I was killed, and Illyria got bit. Yes, it never does come at an inopportune time, does it? No, it doesn't. We don't know what it means yet. We don't know if they're related, but we just had to complete our mission. We had to do it, otherwise, well, they're not good people, the Wild Stallions. They have been kind to us, but we have not caused them any trouble, and I have been somewhat useful to them, and so I don't want to find out what happens if we displease them.
So, you and Illyria went back down to Dongreet to try and complete your tasks.
Yes.
I see.
The headmistress must be up in the loft above as you stand still in between a large chest that seems to have a hole simply punched right through the top of it, and a bookcase with the upper shelves kind of crumbled in under the weight of what looks to be a stone book. The headmistress must be up in that loft because one of the bells dings softly as the chain that rings it gets brushed against. Dum, dum, dum.
And what is it that you ask of me, Igor?
Well, Headmistress, I don't want Illyria to be in trouble. We were trying to keep each other safe. We were trying to do what we had to do. Because when the Wild Stallions come back, they're going to want these things from us.
And what is it that you anticipated would happen when they came back and you gave them what they wanted?
You suddenly see over in one corner, you didn't see it turn, but now you just see an hourglass seems to have begun to release sand down below.
I thought that I would have completed the task I was given, and I would have kept my word.
You have kept your word. Igor, understand that your word is as powerful as the thing you have agreed to. The power of your word is entirely up to those things that you dedicate yourself to. The Wild Stallions are indeed going to come back, of course they will, but the information that you have gathered, it will not be put to good use. These are people that you know will not have good intentions for Dongreet. Do you think that the danger would have ended there? Do you think that the danger would have ended with you?
I had not planned beyond that.
Indeed not. You're going to have to learn, Igor. You're going to see that agreeing to help powerful and bad people, people who will not do good things, you're simply passing on the suffering from yourself to others. I'm afraid we're going to see how that has played out in just a moment.
Ding, 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 ding. This bell rings up above, and you hear shouts from down below. Seemingly out in the castle grounds, you hear growling and barking, and you rush back into the staircase to where the last window was that you could sort of get a view out of. And through just this little arrow slit of a window, you look down below and you can see Zed, the man in the tooth-studded hat, the leader of this group. You see Bella up the closest. You see the other members of this group, including the envoy, backing Illyria the wolf into a corner here. And finally, Bella manages to catch hold of Illyria and bring them inside. You sort of see Illyria struggling to get away, but Bella has got a fierce grip.
It will not only be your friend who's affected by this. The people of Dawngreet will not escape the ramifications. You and I, Igor.
And suddenly, immediately in front of you, stepping out from behind one of these aisles, is the headmistress. Her fangs seem to have grown by half an inch or so. You can see the tattoos are pulsing at a much quieter brightness than before, but her eyes are glowing like shining a flashlight at a beast in the darkness. Just a very bright moonlit eyes as she stands immediately in front of you, having suddenly entered your space without you noticing she was even approaching. And she looks down at you and says,
Igor, you and I, we can do things that others can't. We can be places unseen. That is power. That is power as much as the power of Illyria, as much as the power of a sword or a shield. Perhaps even more.
She leans forward, and the light coming off of her eyes is so much so that it almost sort of blinds you to the rest of the room here. They're like search lamps. As she leans in very close and says,
Guilt. We will not survive without guilt. Well, perhaps we would.
She averts her eyes for just a moment and sort of stares into the distance above your head, lost in thought for a moment. But then those searchlight eyes snap back to you, and she says,
But no one else would. Learn from this guilt, Igor.
And suddenly her shadows, she shatters into shadows much as you saw Orif Barsaran do before. This is kind of a vampire thing, and you hear ding 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 as the bells up above ring out as these fractured shadows suddenly rush out and above. Igor, you've got at least one scroll, one Dear Diary scroll, of the two that you've found so far, and you have got, like, you could well sort of ink down, there's plenty of stuff around here if you wanted to grab a quill or something and try to jot down from memory some of the symbols that you saw before, if you wanted to leave them here, but it seems that the headmistress is going to address the problem that currently is Illyria. What do we think? What do you want to do? If you'd like, you can leave this stuff here. If not, you can sort of like rush away and see what happens next. What would you like to do, Igor? You want to worry about that later? Okay, tally ho. Igor, you have got... oh, duh. You don't have that note anyway because it was back in your satchel. That Dear Diary scroll is going to be back in your satchel inside the wall. So, yes, don't worry about that. The time for that is probably later after all. Okay. Igor, you find the staircase and rush back downstairs. finding staircases, finding your way toward the only place that really makes sense, which is the Great Hall. Wherever Illyria is brought back into the building, that is probably where you want to be right now. You are going to have to catch up here if you want to have any impact, but you know that most of what you had in your pocket has been spent. I want you to know that you got a miss with a twist on your roll to try and convince the headmistress. So that's why things are going this way. Back in the Great Hall, Igor rushes down and finds the headmistress. Has just simply arrived here after darting out through the belfry, out the roof. The headmistress is simply here, and now that now that Igor has arrived, you arrive by one door at the exact same time that this group of school hunters bursts in through one of the larger doors. Illyria is whining and fighting and growling and barking against Bella as the other school hunters sort of stand by. Zed holds chains. One's not attached to his chain sensor flail, but these are just loose chains, and stands close to Bella as Bella fights, and he begins to wrap them around Illyria's muzzle, Illyria's paws and legs, and Bella manages to hold and fight just enough to get these chains around before Zed grabs hold of the chains, hauls Illyria to the floor, and keeps one boot on Illyria's side and sort of examines Bella. He stands there and says,
"Well, this one certainly did a bit of a job on you, hey?"
I don't think they meant it, but yeah, I'm pretty well tore up. It's just a good thing. It's a good thing they're not a werebear. Werewolves are right around where I'm able to max out.
You go get yourself looked at. We'll take care of this one.
The headmistress steps forward, and a hush goes over the students that are gathered here. This has not been like, this isn't a meeting that has been called. There are just some students who happen to be here in the Great Hall right now. You see some of them are practicing some of their spellcraft in the corner. You see quite a few who are simply here studying in the seats. Along the walls, you see Chu and her gang sort of enter the room quietly and post up leaning against one of the many pillars here. The shadow glass keeps the room comfortable for you as the sun starts to rise. This is the end of the day. You were able to make it back in time, but back for what?
Illyria.
Headmistress speaks. Headmistress Franceliska stops at the wriggling, furious form of Illyria on the ground. Illyria stops for just a moment before growling a little bit.
Illyria? Igor has explained to me some of the complications regarding tonight's adventures.
The headmistress kneels next to the wolf, Illyria. Zed steps forward and subtly puts his boot onto one of the chains that holds Illyria just to make sure that they don't lash out and catch the headmistress.
You don't know enough about yourself. You don't know enough to adventure out in this way. And you're probably not hearing me now. We don't know when you're going to transform back again. We don't know when you are going to be able to learn more about yourself. But right now, you are dangerous. You're dangerous to everyone.
And looking at the many wounds on Illyria, especially the dark matted fur where Illyria has lost a lot of blood at the neck and underneath the ribs.
You are a danger to no one so much as yourself. Zed, I'm afraid they're going to have to be put away until they transform, until they come back. Illyria! Illyria. This could have been avoided. When you come back, we are going to teach you how. But right now, I cannot teach you anything.
Zed sort of leans in, still stepping on this chain to keep Illyria from lurching at the headmistress. Zed leans in, and his grizzled black face gets very close to the headmistress so that he can whisper. And I'm not sure Illyria really takes this in, but he says,
"They're one of the worst I've ever seen. The instincts on this one, not a single decision their own."
Bella sort of like steps forward, starting to be bandaged up by an aged vampire woman, sort of putting gauze and bandages around Bella's arms, where there are many small bite marks, but quite enough of them to draw significant amounts of blood. Bella says,
It's not as bad as all that. I was able to get him back up here all right. Play a little fetch.
She smiles this big, sort of sympathetic orc smile, and Zed kind of raises an eyebrow at her. She falls a little sullen and quiet, and Zed says, he just shakes his head, says,
"It was a rough one. Not only that, but we had another run-in with the Lucabriska. Headmistress, they're here in force. We were able to fight some of them off, but when we got ambushed in the forest, we almost died. If it wasn't for your sister." "Shh."
Zed, not now. We will discuss this later.
Igor rushes up and says,
"Where are you going to take them? Can I visit them?" You're going to have to keep your distance. You understand, I think.
And the headmistress gently grabs you by the wrist and holds up your wounded hand, which, although you are much better than you were before, this is where Illyria managed to essentially shred your ghostly form, wounding you just as much as they would have been able to any other person. And she says,
"They are dangerous. As dangerous to you as anyone else."
She stands and sort of says, still looking down at Illyria, but seemingly for the benefit of the room,
"We are not safe from each other. The lycan among us are quick and tough. The vampires, we don't age. And the ghosts, you feel untouched by the mortal world. But I can tell you right now, Igor, Illyria is dangerous to you and to everyone. Much in the same way that you are dangerous to them. Duskin have the power to hurt one another. A lot of power to do so. That is why we must look out for our interest as one. We cannot be fractured in this way. And you and I, Igor, you and I, we must be allies. And Illyria, though you don't want to hear it right now,
she stands and steps back from Illyria. Zed nods for Bella to come back over, and he helps heave Illyria over Bella's shoulder one more time. Headmistress Franceliska says,
"If we do not operate as allies, These knife wounds in Illyria, they will be the least of the harm brought to us by those who wish to see us perish. We must stay together. There is embarrassment in that.
She looks directly at Igor.
It is not comfortable to share the times that we have been weak. There is embarrassment. There is vulnerability. But Igor, you and I, we must be allies. I will never be your enemy, but we must be allies. There is a space in between those, between ally and enemy. And if we find ourselves there, we will be divided, we will be conquered.
I trust you. I just want to make sure that I can watch over my friend when they need me the most.
Very well.
The whispers begin, as we know they must, as the students watch Illyria dragged in chains out of the Great Hall. Igor, no one moves to stop you as you follow, except for Chu. Chu, the werewolf who seems to be the head of this little gang of werewolves, steps forward and puts a hand out, Igor. She looks equally excited and anxious. She looks genuinely concerned, but there is also that excitement behind her eyes. And she says,
"Well, by all the gods, that is one of the most exciting ones, isn't it? Much more than I thought it was going to be." Igor, you do have an interesting friend, don't you? Well, if Illyria's going, and
well, let me do a quick roll here. This is gonna be a heart roll against matching threes. You've got a success. Hey, Igor. Chu pulls you in, and you can see the other werewolves surrounding Chu sort of form up around you to muffle your conversation and to make sure you don't bolt anywhere before Chu has had her say. But Chu pulls you in, and you can see that in a pronounced way, her teeth have extended into fangs, different from the last time you saw her.
You know, the moons, they got themselves organised into our transformation as well. This is round about when we're supposed to transform. And if Illyria was bit near the castle, which is what I've heard, I think Illyria and I have got even more in common than we realised. The eternal hunger unites us. Welcome her to the pack for us, would you?
I just realized I might want to get some alt takes of that line, so I think I'm going to actually do that now. Y'all are watching me do a live production of something that I want to eventually sound really good in audio. So let me get a slightly cleaner take of that. I know this is really weird to do. This is not something you see often, but you know, if I've got the opportunity to get a cleaner take of it, I don't want to suffer because I'm doing this live. I want it to be the best live and in the VOD. So I wanted to take another quick hit at that line. And there we go. Okay. Maybe I'll get some additional takes of that one later on, but for right now, I think that's pretty good. Okay. All right. So everyone, there we go. Hen. Heck yeah, Sam, says Hen. Okay, folks, so just to sort of like, for anyone who doesn't necessarily know what happened there, it looks like Chu and the rest of these werewolves, they come from the same bloodline as Illyria has been inducted into. We're gonna be talking about this more later on, but hey, some stuff happening. On a hit with a twist, I was gonna have you just sort of like see if you could pick anything up, but no, I think, yeah, hit with a twist, you deserve a lot of info there. That's the equivalent of a crit hit in this game, so hey, not bad. Not bad, right? Hen says, heck yeah. A very good question. Let's see, wait, why can you say, oh yeah, no, I don't know. I think it's because Hen is a mod. That would be my guess. But Deathrave says, I just want to say, even though she didn't get us out of trouble, the headmistress gave us solid life advice. Yeah, that was sort of like, I mean, essentially, I think so, and I know Hen came in at a rough time for that, but overall, the no, it's fine, Hen. I'm considering these PG-13 streams, so on this one, not a problem. The headmistress, I think, like I said, you rolled a miss with a twist on that one, so you were not going to be able to make any progress with that. Just sometimes that's what the dice say. You made a heart roll, and I think it came up as like, I think you came up. It was 2 8s against you rolled like a 2. So sorry, you were getting no help there. Now, folks, don't head out yet, because we can talk about our quests here. We're gonna see who has gained some XP. We're gonna do that in just a moment, but yeah, I think the headmistress, her reaction to this, essentially, Igor tried to explain what was going on, but the headmistress essentially says, if you would agree to do things for bad people, all you're doing is passing the suffering on to the next people, and it sounds like some of that suffering is being picked up by your friend Illyria right now. But in addition to that, you know, the people of Dawngreet themselves, like what is it that you thought was going to happen after they, after you had completed your mission? What did you think the Wild Stallions were going to do with that? And then essentially said, like, our ability to be places, to essentially do what Igor was doing, you know, spying, our ability to be subtle like that is as powerful as a sword or shield, and if we don't wield that well, well, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We can't just pass on our suffering to other people. Genzilu says, listening in, I feel like the headmistress is giving me odd vibes. Well, I think that's fair. Definitely odd vibes from the headmistress. A very strange person, very subtle, very mysterious, and seemingly not entirely like, I mean, definitely not forthcoming. Definitely not somebody who sort of gets up in the mix with the students very much. If you all would like to find past episodes of this, you can find them on YouTube. You can look for the Sidecar Stories YouTube channel. You can also find these wherever you get your podcasts. I edit these and then upload them. You're going to look for Side Cannons wherever you get your podcast, and you should be able to find them there. I'm a little behind this week, but I should be ready to go in just a moment. So yeah, like by today, I plan to be caught up. But Genzi Lu, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for the follow. I'm glad this is intriguing. But yeah, if you want to get caught up, you can head over there. Otherwise, I do a bit of a review at the beginning of each chapter. And we do this every Wednesday at noon Pacific time. If y'all would like to find out how to play this game, you can find out using the play command, and that will give you a couple of links, including the Lore Keeper's Tome, which will take you to essentially the Google Drive for this campaign, and that will include the character sheets, some of the maps we've got, But not only that, you can also follow Recitus.fandom.com for the Realms of Recitus wiki. The Realms of Recitus are our homebrew world. We have been playing and working on this world for more than 2 years at this point. This is our second major campaign in that world, and boy, am I just so excited. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let's take a look at our quests, because quests, or as they are called in this game, which is Ironsworn, we're using the Ironsworn system. As they're called here, they're called vows. But we essentially set our own quests, and these quests determine how we advance. So let's take a quick look. Currently, Igor, you have completed one of your quests, but you want to avenge your own death. That is a 4-star quest. The more stars, up to 5, the more challenging they are, but also the more XP you'll get. A 1-star quest, make a good impression on Pinelli. A 3-star quest, pursue academics. And a 2-star quest, pursue the history of Duskin. What do you think? Have you made any progress on those thus far? Which ones do you, what do you want to take a look at here? I think that between these discussions that you've had with the Headmistress, I think I'm gonna give you a little bit more progress toward the history of Duskin. So for that one, you are out of 10. You are at 1 out of 10 progress to avenge your own death. You are at 6 out of 10 to make a good impression on Pinelli. You're at 1 out of 10 in pursuing academics, and you are at 6 out of 10 to discover, sort of like study the history of Duskin. Deathrave says, I say we drop the Pinelli one and instead find a mentor for lightning magic. Well, okay, so here's what's up. Here's what happens when you you can forsake your vow. When you forsake a vow, you renounce your quest, betray your promise, or the goal is lost to you. Clear the vow and endure stress. You suffer minus spirit equal to the rank of your quest. If the vow was made to a person or community with whom you share a bond, test your bond when you next meet. So in other words, this is not something where you can just like drop it and nothing happens. You're going to potentially lose spirit. When you endure stress, you can like, some bad stuff can happen here. And your spirit is also not super high right now. So the other possibility is you could just try and complete the quest if you wish. You could try to fulfill your vow. And so that would sort of put you, I mean, 6 out of 10, you're just at about the 50-50 for how well it's going to go for you. You know what I mean? And yeah, Deathrave, I would say there's actually a specific asset for like sort of generating power and then releasing that power. I think we'd probably use that one, but there's a specific asset that we can definitely use to reflect this sort of lightning magic stuff. That's absolutely something that you can do. But yeah, if you would like, that's the sort of thing that can just come up as a result of like, you can purchase that with your experience once you've got it. But yeah, we can try to resolve. We can try to resolve the Pinelli one right now if you want. I definitely would not try to resolve any of your other ones except for making a good impression on Pinelli or the history of Duskin one. I definitely wouldn't do any of the rest of them. And even these two, I would probably prefer to go a little further before that, but you know, to progress a little further on those. But hey, there you go. Ooh, Hen, you might have to bring that one in again next week. You might have to be back with that one next week because I'm definitely not going to remember. Sorry. Let's see. Deathrave is saying, so yeah, you can definitely like, I think, I would say for this one, don't necessarily make it your mission to find, like, don't make it a quest to find like a lightning magic mentor, because I think you're just going to do that like as a result of your classes. So I would say don't worry about that one too much. Think of things that might be a little bit closer to home, something a little bit more personal. And you also, I mean, you've completed one of your, I'm trying to keep it to 5 vows because that's how many spaces are available on the sheet here. But I also, like, we don't need to stick with that. But you've only got 4 vows right now, so if you wanted to throw in another vow, like right now, you could absolutely do so. And keep in mind, you can do it at any point during the sessions as well. And I think we can probably check some of our bonds stuff here. Let's see. When a bond is tested through conflict, betrayal, or circumstance, roll plus heart. We might be. We'll see. I think when Illyria sort of comes back from wolf mode, we'll see. Yeah, your follow-up question. Let's see. Pinelli seems like a good girl and could potentially be a good influence on Igor if we make friends with her. Yeah, definitely. That's a possibility. Yeah, I would say there's, unless you really do, like, you really want to, like, fully separate off from Pinelli, I would say you can stick with that vow there. You know, see it out a little bit further, or try to complete it right now, but I wouldn't just forsake it necessarily, based on what I know about the rules. Marinver says, when we went into the tunnel with some of that stuff that we learned, go toward the history of Duskin. Yes, Marinver, I marked you for some extra XP toward that. You definitely understand a little bit more than you did before. So yeah, you were at 4 out of 6, and now you're at, excuse me, if you were at 4 out of 10, now you're at 6 out of 10. And Hen says, you can be friends with good people without turning into one of them. Yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Also, you know, like, you don't necessarily need to, like, Pinelli can be more than just like a positive influence. You know, it's just good to have friends. So, yeah, y'all let me know. I think let me take a look at Illyria's too, because it would be nice if Illyria could get some XP as well. Right now, no XP for Illyria. Illyria has got no XP so far. Okay, here we go. So, a 5-star quest. Return to Brackwater, ready to settle down. I think after today's experiences, I'm gonna go ahead and give myself one more here, which puts me at 1 out of 10. Sometimes these don't work in full marks, they work in percentages of marks, and this is a 5-star quest. It's gonna be a long one. A 2-star quest, the Wild Stallions want me to bring something south for them. This box, and with 2, I'm absolutely gonna try and complete this quest. Okay, I'm at 8 out of 10. Not perfect, but pretty good. Let's see how we can do here. Are y'all ready? Okay, so we're gonna try and fulfill our vow. Here we go. Crap. Okay, all right. Against a 7 and a 10, I've got an 8. So at least it's a weak hit. There is more to be done, or you realize the truth of your quest. Envision what you discover, then mark experience. Okay, so I didn't get as much experience as I otherwise could have. Oh, I hope this isn't a troublesome quest. No, but it's one. Oh, man. Dang it. All right. I get 1. I get 1 experience. Dang it, that could have been, what, 2? 1, 2, 3, or 4 versus 0, 1, 2, or wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, okay. It nerfs it by 1. That's okay. That's all right. And if I want to set a vow to set things right with this thing, do I want to? I feel like if anything, I'd want to set a vow to, like, set things right with the town. Because I don't know, we did some damage here. I'm gonna say for right now, no extra vow. No extra vow. I think Illyria just wants to be done with this box thing. We've got the box here. We're just not doing it. I'm just not gonna do it anymore. Let's see. Deathrave's question is essentially like, do we want to be a criminal? That's certainly your background, Deathrave. It's a good question. Like, is Igor trying to go on the straight and narrow a little bit more? Deathrave says, because the headmistress clearly tried to teach us the negative impacts that it has, and I'm wondering if we actually took that in as Igor or not. I definitely did, but I want to know if everyone has feelings about it. Hen says, well, from what I understand, Igor became a criminal due to the circumstances, so he may not necessarily want to be one, but I understand, I imagine it would be rather ingrained in his psyche, so I'm happy either way. Yeah, it's a good question. Chenzi Lu says, to be honest, listening in about the headmistress, I opinionally wouldn't trust her, but I jumped in halfway, so I don't know what she's been like. Yeah, so ultimately, this sounds like the sort of thing that may well come down to a bit of a vote, and that will happen over in Discord. If y'all want to jump in on that, go ahead and use the links command. That will take you over to our many links, but including the Discord. And we'll be exploring that over there. I'm gonna have a vote in our, let's see, do I do a private channel or just put it in the, no, I'll just put it in the regular channel. So there may be some discussion surrounding that, but yeah, we're gonna be checking that out over in Discord. Meanwhile, let's see, what about the rest of these? Discover the truth of the underbrush. No, I tried to get some more info on that, but I was unable to. That is a 4-star quest. 1-star quest, find out about my condition. Yep, I've definitely advanced on that one. Let's see, pursue expeditioneering. No progress on that one. So, let's see, I actually marked 3 for this one. Okay, hey, when we come back, I'm gonna, like when Illyria transforms back again, I'm gonna have some more info on this. I'm at a 9 against a 6 and a 7. Finally! Okay, I am completing this quest. Fulfilling this vow. Yeah. Okay, this is an easy one, so I mark what? Mark 1 experience. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. But yeah, Igor is no, excuse me, Illyria now has 2 experience. So Igor, I have surpassed you. So basically, you can risk it if you want to, knocking off the Pinelli one or the Duskin one, but keep in mind I had an 8 for one of those, and you just compare it against 2d10. So let's roll some test ones. These do not count. You got a 6 against a 6 and a 7, so that one would be, you would have had a full miss on the Pinelli one, and against you got a 1 and a 10, so that would have been a weak hit. So yeah, I would advocate, like, I would say 7 is sort of like my minimum number for thinking like, okay, I'm statistically in a good shape for this one, but it's up to y'all. Marinver says, does something happen when you get 2 XP? Yeah, basically I can, so 1 XP, I don't think I can spend that on anything. I don't think there's anything that costs just 1, but with 2 XP, I can now spend those on advancements to my assets. So like, let's take a look at Igor's assets, for instance. No, let's take a look at my assets. So for instance, for the herbalist asset, I'm gonna try to find my quickest one. For my improviser asset, when you check your gear, you may roll plus wits instead of plus supply. If you do, envision how you make do with a clever solution and take +1 momentum on a hit. That's what I can do with the basic version, but there are advancements, typically 2 advancements for every single one. So I could advance this asset, improviser, and be able to do that thing that I just said. And also, when you secure an advantage or face danger by cobbling together an ad hoc tool or apparatus, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. After rolling, you may suffer -1 supply and add +1 more. Interesting. Okay, so basically it just makes you better at this thing. So for Igor, like for instance, your trickster. Right now you can, when you face danger, secure an advantage or compel by lying, bluffing, stealing, or cheating, add +1. But with 2 XP, you could level it up to that plus. When you gather information by investigating a devious scheme, you may roll plus shadow instead of wits. If you do, take +2 momentum on a hit. So basically you can level stuff up. With 3 XP, however, you can purchase a new asset. We've each got 4 assets right now. We've got, because you can start with 3 and then I added an extra one to reflect your ghostliness and my lycanthropy. So you've got Ghost, Alchemist, Infiltrator, and Trickster. And if you want to go in and take a look at the character sheets, you'll be able to see precisely what advancements you have available to you right now. You'll be able to actually purchase them once you have got at least 1 more XP. So They're not ready for you yet. You don't have to go take a look yet, but if you're curious about it, go ahead and use the play command or the lore command, and either one of those will take you to the same spot. Check out that Lore Keeper's Tome link up at the top there. And with that, folks, I think that is the end of our stream. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. I love you all dearly, and as per usual, thank you for coming in to hang out and for checking out this weird little project here. This isn't something that a lot of folks are doing. You know, this is kind of an oddball little campaign, and I'm really thankful that y'all have decided to jump in because we're telling some really fun stories right now. I'm enjoying it a ton. We've had some more chances to see what the Headmistress is like and how we are all going to react to that. I see one of you at least has popped into the character sheets already, but yeah, scroll down to the bottom. Not all the way to the bottom, but you'll see the assets. They're the big boxes there. Currently, your character sheet, Igor, your tab, your 4 are Ghost, Alchemist, Infiltrator, and Trickster. So, everyone, have a great time. Deathrave says, my favorite campaign as always, Sam. Thank you for hosting. Of course, Deathrave. Thank you for playing. Genzilu, welcome. And I hope that very soon we'll get you in here playing. Same with you, Alex Saturn. I see you. I see you, Alex Saturn. Genzilu and Alex Saturn, welcome both of you to the Punk Ruffians. It's great to have you here. If you like this storytelling stuff, Sidecar Stories is a channel dedicated entirely to telling stories to each other, with one another, like we do here, but on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, so 4 hours later than whatever this time this one started for you, is Flying Sidecar. Wednesdays are Side Cannons, and Thursdays are Flying Sidecar, a voice actor's venture through some stories that we all love. Right now, Hunger Games. So if you want to go check that out, you can find back episodes at Flying Sidecar for that, Side Cannons for this, but of course we have got a whole channel dedicated to playlists over in the Discord if you want to check that out. Y'all, I hope you have a good one. And for some of you new folks who are jumping in here, thank you for checking this out, and thank you so much for staying. I hope you, and I hope you enjoy, and I hope you get a chance to jump on in and play a little bit. It's been fun. Hen says there's no hiding from the Eye of Samron. A great eye. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.